Let's get more reaction now. I'm joined on the line by Geordin Hill-Lewis. He's a Democratic Alliance member. What's your reaction to that rate cut by the South African Reserve Bank?
Obviously, we welcome any relief for the South African economy at this desperate time. I wonder whether there won't be more to come in the coming weeks and months. But as a start and as a second cut after the one a few weeks ago, it's obviously welcome news.
The Democratic Alliance has released their own version of what a lockdown should be. You've been accused by some commentators of perhaps not reading the room properly. Talk to us about the differences between the DA's plan for a lockdown and the current South African government one.
Well, the key thing is that we have made the case that there is a clear link between the health of our economy and the health of our nation. If people are starving, as many people are starting to run out of food now, and millions of more people are becoming unemployed, and tens of thousands of small businesses are shutting down, then that will have a devastating and extremely dangerous consequence for our society that could take many years to recover from. So it's not possible to just disregard that entirely. So what we're saying is that we've got to achieve some kind of a balanced lockdown that achieves safety and allows us to beat this virus, but also allows those people who can work safely to slowly begin to do so. And so we've proposed the staged lockdown or phased lockdown, something similar to the stages of load shedding that all South Africans are familiar with, where the lockdown could get worse or it could be slightly relaxed depending on the data that is coming through from the government on the infection rate. And so we are calling it a smart lockdown because instead of a blunt instrument where we are just forbidden from basically all economic activity and there's no reliance on the data that's coming through, we are saying that we need to take a smarter approach and do what we can do safely.
The data issue, the thing that I've noticed about COVID-19 and the reporting is that there's a lot of uncertainty and there's not a way to almost 100% accurately model what will happen in each particular place.
That's very true.
So is that not going to cause confusion, and may we not lose lives because of that element of not knowing?
Well, what is very true is that it is not possible to know exactly what is happening in this virus. There is a big problem with data, and it's new. So we are not so arrogant as to say that we know exactly what's going to happen. But what we can all surely agree on is that if there's another million or 1.5 million people who are unemployed at this time, and people who are literally in the coming days have got no food and no means of getting any income to get food, then we have an extremely dangerous situation. And the lockdown is not going to work under those conditions anyway, because people are just going to defy it and try and go out and get some money. So that that is 100% certainty. There's no debate on that. So what we've got to do is try to those things which can be done safely, then there's no reason why we shouldn't slowly begin to do so.
Geordin Hill-Lewis from the Democratic Alliance, thanks so much for your time on SABC News this afternoon, getting reaction from political parties in South Africa on the reaction to what's happening with COVID-19. We saw that announcement a little bit earlier on, emergency MPC meeting, 100 basis points cut there. And we also heard from the Finance Minister, Tito Mboweni, saying that although they've announced phase one of the economic policy response, which includes immediate release of funds where needed, an instruction note applicable to the Public Finance Management Act to speed up procurement of goods and commodities required to control the spread of COVID-19, as well as exceptional tax measures as part of fiscal packages. There is still more economic measurements that are going to be announced in order to try and give assistance to people living in South Africa in their pockets, because there's been, as you've just heard from the Democratic Alliance, there concerns that there's no point in having a healthy population who are struggling economically. So that's what we're talking about today. We've spoken to the Freedom Front Plus, the UDM, the Democratic Alliance. Will still be speaking to the African National Congress and the Economic Freedom Fighters. Of course, we know that the situation is very dire. The International Monetary Fund's World Economic Outlook says that, or there's estimates showing that the global economy is going to contract by about 2.9%. We're going to hear from the IMF what that exact figure is a little bit later on. According to the finance minister, the initial estimate of the IMF was of an economic contraction of 5.8%. I spoke to economist Duma Kubule a little bit earlier on. He says that Treasury and the finance minister are always quite optimistic when it comes to what's going to happen in our economy. We've always seen the figures being a little bit worse when they come out than what they initially projected. He said earlier on we could see our economy contracting by about 10%, which would take us deep into recession. So political parties are responding and giving their suggestions for what we can do with our economy and to mitigate those challenges, not only of COVID-19, but how that affects how we live and work. It's time for a short break. When we come back, we'll have more of that. Do stay with us on Point.